happy to have you today for our Better Together webinar combining Sentinel, Defender for IoT, and special appearance from Defender Threat Intelligence. My name is Yariv Halpern, and I'm a project manager in Defender for IoT. With me today are Amit Cohen, product manager in Defender for IoT, and Babayigit, security specialist, global black belt in Defender Threat Intelligence. Today, we're going to take a different approach. We're going to tell a story about a successful attack on industrial and control systems, then demonstrating what could have been done in various stages to detect and stop it before it succeeded, leveraging the combined solution. We will then break it down to its building blocks and show how the integration looks like and how it benefits, the benefit it brings, just in time to wrap up, answer your questions, and call to action. Throughout the webinar, as Jason said, you're encouraged to drop your question at the Q&A window where our panelists will do our best to respond. If you like what you see when you want to onboard, there is a link at the end of the webinar for follow-ups. Our story begins at 3 a.m., middle of the night for people with small kids, in Kotoso Petrochemicals production site. Night shift is boring, and all signs in the control room overlooking the facility are normal. In the production floor network rack, one LED turns to green, indicating configuration change. A critical PLC, programmable logic controller, the device you will see in OT environments that handles the cooling of key components, receives new firmware. While control rooms receives fake data of normal parameter, temperature rises beyond the critical threshold. When the control room notices, finally, it's already too late. The temperature in the cooling system reaches a critical point, which leads to an explosion. Now, the questions we want to talk about today are, first, how did this happen? And second, how could we have stopped it by analyzing the signs? First, let's discuss some background. Production-centering organizations are going through digital transformation, expanding their attack surface. Traditionally, those industries such as manufacturing, energy, and utilities used to be disconnected from IT and the internet. But COVID and the digital transformation pushed organizations to connect air-gapped environments and leverage the power of the cloud, sometimes without addressing the security aspects of the transformation. Common security tools that focus on IT, cloud and identity are completely blind to what's happening in industrial environments. In addition, those environments were built to operate with minimal downtime, so actively probing, querying, patching, or upgrading are out of the equation, and installing agent on those non-IT operating systems or unmanaged device is impossible. So how can we protect these areas? Defender for IoT discovers OT and IoT assets and network activity, manages risk and vulnerability, detects threats, and facilitates investigation. All this in a non-intrusive deployment where OT and IoT lives. Defender Threat Intelligence, or Defender TI, streamlines triage, incident response, threat hunting, vulnerability management, and cyber threat intelligence. Combining the power of the solutions and leveraging the tight integration with Sentinel, Microsoft SIEM helps organizations protect their environments end-to-end and helps SOC teams detect the attacks and respond quickly before it's too late. Of course, Microsoft offers a complete security ecosystem starting from identity through the endpoint to the cloud, but we're not going to touch on those today. So, how can such an attack evade standard security tools? Attacker establishes a remote VPN connection to an IT workstation, scans the network and finds an engineering workstation, EWS, in the OT environment. He then establishes an RDP to it and looks for vulnerable devices in the OT network. Compromises networking equipment to hide connections to CobaltStrike, a known platform for pen testing that's also being used by adversaries. These connections are then used to exploit a vulnerability in the critical PLC. The attacker manages to update the PLC firmware and stop a critical process while hiding the real data from control room. Such an attack can take months to prepare, but when executed, things can escalate quickly. Using social engineering or phishing for credential theft can bypass security controls, making the attack invisible until it reaches the OT environment. Now, let's look at the signs, as the SOC could have detected them when investigating the incident. Alp, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Today I have two use cases with me, and really primarily to present the Better Together stories with Defender for IoT, Microsoft Sentinel, and Defender Threat Intelligence workloads. The use case one is about how you can do the investigation if there is an incident happened which was triggered by the Defender for IoT sensor in Sentinel. The second use case is about how we can proactively hunt for C2 infrastructure by using the Defender for IoT sensors row logs. Let's start with the first one. You see my Sentinel in your screen. Let's start with the investigation, right? When I do the investigation, I will go to the incident plane, and there I have a one incident. You can see malicious IP domain name request. This is an incident which generated a bit triggered by the Defender for IoT sensor. What I can do is actually I can get the full details here. When I get the full details, right, I can see there's a one PLC involved, right, and one specific IP address, right. But however, right, when I look to the entities what I got from Defender for IoT, it is clearly it's a PLC, right, there, but there's also one IP address, right. For the one IP address, I want to have more details, right, and how can I get more insights about the specific IP address here. What I already did is actually once this incident was triggered, I'm running several playbooks in the background now to get more details about the IP address. When I have the playbooks, when the playbooks were run, you will get the details in the comment field, right? When you see, what I got from the Microsoft Threat Intelligence is, it says the IP address is actually, first of all, is malicious, right? And second one, I can also see it belongs to Cobalt Strike here. But when we think about Cobalt Strike is a pen testing tool, but however, it can be used also by the attackers, to attack your organization here as well. What I also did is actually, I see it is a malicious 100. When I run the playbooks, I also make sure to automate as much as possible, right? When I see the malicious score is 100, then I decided to, let's say, to flag this specific incident as high. Before it was me, right? Then also what I did is actually I changed the incident status from open to active and made a note about this. It relates to CrowdStrike and you need a further investigation here, right? Now, when you can see it relates to Cobalt Strike and it's really clearly malicious, then you can really decide what you want to do. You can also decide here, as an example, to just start a playbook, like maybe you want to block this in your Palo Alto or other type of firewalls you want to have in your infrastructure. Another point I would like to highlight is actually maybe there is also some reason you want to have more details about the specific PLC here. You can do this also with the Defender for IoT dashboard. When you go to Defender for IoT dashboard, right, you will see the list of the inventory, what Defender for IoT sensor is discovering. And what you can do is actually you can just click here as an example and then see the full details of the specific device. Here you will get details about which device which protocol is used, which other additional details or firmware version is available on this device as well. And if there are, of course, many details on the backplane, vulnerabilities, and also you can look for the alerts if you want to have it as well. The second use case I would like to show you is on the specific IP address what we found in the first incident, right? What I'm actually interested is actually, okay, if this relates to Cobalt Strike, I want to also get details about Cobalt Strike, plus, maybe to look or proactive hunt in my environment, if there are another devices hit by the specific IP address which relates to Cobalt Strike. There, I can use the Defender for IoT, Defender for the Threat Intelligence the dashboard here. What I did already is actually I typed the IP address here and then you will get the details, right? This is exactly the same details what I got with the API. But here I can see the Cobalt Strike. I can click it as an example. I will get, let's say, details about it, and then can also click about the indicators, right? And you can see all the indicators which relates to Cobalt Strike here. What I prepared here is actually I downloaded all the indicators and stored in a storage account, and from there I will start my investigation if there are any devices, in my environment which hits the specific IOCs from the Cobalt Strike. This is something that I can do also in the Sentinel. I need to go to Sentinel here as an example. This is the query what I'm looking for, right? This is the list here. You can see it. This is stored in the storage account, and I'm doing the mapping with the IOC list with the raw data of Defender for IoT sensor. What I can do is actually I can just run this. When I run, I will see probably some devices in my environment where Cobalt Strike infrastructure is used. And you can see it here. There are some of them, right? As an example, one device is already has a connection to specific IP, which belongs to Cobalt Strike. Right now, what you can do is actually you can, as an example, take this and then you can create a new incident, or you can also attach this specific event to an existing incident in your environment here as well. To summarize, what I did is actually, in the scenario 1, I do the investigation, looked for the specific insights about an IP address. There I used the capabilities of Microsoft Defender Threat Intelligence. In the second use case, I had the list of specific IOCs which relates to Cobalt Strike, and then do a map with the existing raw data which was available by the Defender for IoT sensor. Thank you so much. Hand over to you, Yariv.
Thank you, Alp. That was amazing. So before the investigation, we learned that attacker used various evasion techniques to bypass the standard security controls. The first alert about the malicious IP that Alp showed was triggered was brought to Sentinel by Defender for IoT. What other alerts are generated if such an attack goes as planned? Defender for IoT could have discovered suspicious network scans in the network as part of the anomaly engine. This security engine could also detected a PLC scan in the network, while the protocol violation engine could have detected firmware updates on OT devices. If the attacker would have chosen less sophisticated methods, the operational engine could have detected it as a PLC stop command. So what are the building blocks that enable the investigations that we just saw? Defender for IoT uses a network sensor to passively build its security database for OT and IoT environments. The analyzed data, logs, and alerts are sent to Sentinel, empowering SOC teams to quickly respond to attacks involving OT and IoT. Defender for Endpoint can also be enabled to detect IoT devices in mixed IT and IoT environments. To summarize, Defender for IoT delivers OT and IoT asset discovery, risk and vulnerability management, threat monitoring, incident response, and threat intelligence. It can detect operational efficiency issues and enable unified IT and OT security monitoring. And now let's hand it over to Amit, who will present and demonstrate the integration between Defender for IoT and Sentinel.
Thanks, Yariv. Okay, so before dive into the best practices and capabilities, I would like to share a short overview of the challenges and the need for OT, IoT-enabled SOC. So in most organizations today, when it comes to enterprise SOC, there is a lack of OT expertise and OT knowledge to properly handle OT security. And that happens on several levels. That happens at the people level, expertise levels. Usually there is a lack of skill set among most of the SOC analysts to handle OT security incidents, because SOC analysts, they usually tend to come from the IT space. Also, IT people, the SOC team, usually do not fully understand what the impact of incident that reported on physical equipment on OT devices usually are. At the process level, in many organizations, there is a lack of communication between OT engineer and IT teams, SOC teams, and workflows also were not adapted for OT needs. And on the technical level, the third level, most of the SIEMs today do not have native OT capabilities and OT context, including visibility and functionalities. The OT context sometimes completely absent, and users have to spend hours of SOC operation and SOC engineers to build kind of solution package, content package to support OT within the existing SIEMs. And actually there is a lot of times no single pane of glass for OT, IoT, and IT in one place. And the most important part is that it's not only on the level of visibility, but also the ability to correlate between security events that start from IT and move to the OT environment, which is normally what leads for most of the attacks on the OT networks. So we understand that simply sending Defender for IoT security insights on the OT environment and IoT environments and alerts to the existing SOC is not enough. And what we are doing in Defender for IoT together with Sentinel, which is a joint effort of both groups, both products, is building a value proposition, a new value proposition in Sentinel that will introduce the OT context in such a way that will help customers, organizations to converge their IT and OT SOC in one place under one roof in a single pane of glass, which is Sentinel, and eventually reduce the time it takes to manage and resolve OT incidents. We are doing that first by providing single pane of glass and streaming alerts and operational and security alerts from Defender for IoT to Sentinel. But we are also, it's not only that, we are also bringing the entire context, OT context, including security recommendation, OT inventory data, operational data, and other data that's relevant for SOC to investigate and triage correctly by understanding the expected business impact following on OT incidents and how to handle and remediate such incident. Now, in order to help customers to build efficient SOC for OT security, not only we provide native integration with advanced capabilities, and we will show that in the demo in a minute, we are also providing documentation, guidance, and best practices how to build OT-enabled SOC in an efficient way and enabled you as an organization to converge your IT SOC to IT OT SOC and speed up the resolution of OT incident. The first step for organization to enable their SOC team for OT is to identify the relevant OT use cases that are priority and important for the organization. For that reason, based on multiple deployments across industry, we compiled a list of the most relevant 15 use cases addressed by our customers. You can see the list briefly in the slide. That list can be used by organization to make sure that only for those prioritized use cases, the corresponding Defender for IoT alerts will create incident in the SOC. And that will help first to reduce the alert fatigue from the SOC team. And second, make sure that they are focused on incidents that are structured, they are educated on, and are priority for the organization. So usually we are recommending starting from that list of best practices, prioritize the implementation of the OT SOC gradually until all stakeholders are educated and know what to do upon receiving OT incident for each use case. Once the best practice, once the OT use cases have been prioritized, the second step is defining for each use cases that I have as an organization prioritized high priority, define also the relevant scenario and workflows to act upon. Also, as part of our best practices document, we are suggesting structured workflow to act upon each use case. For example, workflow can be what tier 1 analyst should do once a malware incident being triggered, then when that should be escalated for tier 2 analyst, what should be communicated to the OT engineer in order to do more deep investigation, and now eventually together remediate that threat. Now, I showed the motivation and the best practices for OT-enabled SOC by identify, define, and prioritize the relevant OT use cases for your organization and define the relevant workflows and structure workflow for each one of them and educate the relevant stakeholders. In the next part, we'll demonstrate how Defender for OT and Sentinel native integration can help you meet the challenges of having OT-enabled SOC and converging your SOC to one SOC, as well as automate the best practices and the workflows that I showed before. Now, Defender for OT is offering a dedicated solution package within Sentinel Content Hub with a set of out-of-the-box content that is constantly evolving based on feedback from customers. The installation processes we will see in the demo is super easy. It takes 2 clicks. And once you have the solution package will include 3 types of content. One is analytic rules. Analytic rules being used to reduce the alert fatigue and automate the use cases that you have prioritized in your organization as high priority in order to create incidents only for the kind of threats or kind of use cases that you have defined as high priority, allow to SOC analysts to focus on the most important use cases with a predefined workflow. The second one is out-of-the-box playbooks that can help you automate remediation step, including operational SOC work, incident response, and by that increase the SOC efficiency. And workbooks, which provides SOC team dashboards and general insights on the OT environment and can help SOC during investigation or hunting process by exposing the full OT inventory, the posture, the threat detection, the MITRE metrics to understand what is the current stage of the threat, and all of that using the same screens the SOC team is already familiar with. Now let's go through the demo and demonstrate how that can be achieved. So we will cover in the demo 4 main topics. One is how can SOC teams integrate their Defender for IoT alerts, inventory, and the OT context with Sentinel. Second, how can SOC team investigate OT incidents using Defender for IoT native integration with Sentinel? Then we will see how SOC can stream their investigation and resolve OT incident by leveraging the out-of-the-box playbooks as part of the solution package. And lastly, we will see how SOC can visualize the full OT context using Defender for IoT out-of-the-box workbooks. So first, in order to provide SOC with a single pane of glass for the IoT IT threat detection operation, let's see how you can onboard Defender for IoT alerts and inventory to Sentinel. Under Content Hub section, you can see a bunch of solution package. By looking for Defender for IoT solution package, you can with single click on the data connector. Okay, open the connector page, and you can connect or disconnect Defender for IoT to start stream not only the alerts as discussed, but also the OT context, which including the OT IoT device data, the device vulnerabilities, the crown jewel devices, which devices are most important for my organization as defined by Defender for IoT to help me prioritize and triage correctly the incidents in my SOC. The asset owner, who are the OT engineers that owning each device, and so on. All of this data can be used to streamline the investigation process, again, using the familiar screens SOC teams are using with. And once alerts and inventory data stream to log analytics, the second step is of the onboarding is to install the analytic rules for the OT use cases that you have prioritized in your organization. Those use cases that I've presented before as part of the deck. In order to start and create incidents from the use cases that I have defined as high priority, we are providing as part of the solution package 15 analytic rules for each one of the use cases that we have met as part of our documentation and guidance. And with one click, you can click on configuration and create analytic rule for the use case that you have defined. For example, currently I'm in a use case that's called unauthorized PLC changes, and I can create an analytic rule for that and start and create incidents without the need to build it by my own, but actually leveraging the existing configuration that I have and the out-of-the-box rule query that I have already in place as part of my environment. Later, when I'll come back into my solution package, I can see which analytic rules I have already rolled out and deployed to my environment. So in my environment currently, I can see that I have already the PLC stop command analytical in place. It means I'm creating incident for that kind of use case, and then I can continue, track, monitor, and roll out the other use cases step by step based on my priorities. Now, the second step is investigate actually the incidents that I've created in my environment. So as a SOC analyst, I can now go to the incidents blade and see all the incidents that are assigned to me in the incident table. Now, the first incident that I see that I have and I would like to investigate is called S7 stop command. An S7 stop command was sent. This is as we've seen in the investigation before, in the flow before that Yariv showed, is another step in the attack that we saw at the beginning of the webinar. And that's alert arrived from Defender for OT and alerting the SOC analyst that the source device sent a stop command to a destination PLC. Now, since stopping PLC can sometimes happen in our networks, this and can be valid, this incident has low severity by default. However, if this behavior is not expected and is part of the attack, as we saw in the example before, it could cause serious damage to the plant and can cause even production downtime. So what SOC analysts can do in order to understand if this is an expected behavior or not and triage it correctly. So first of all, SOC can review the full OT incident detail as it is streamed from Defender for OT available in Sentinel, including the ability to navigate to Defender for OT expert system to review the alert details inside Defender for OT itself, access pickups, download the pickups to investigate it separately, suppress the alert if needed, review the devices in more detail, and review the remediation step, and so on. Also, in Sentinel, SOC analysts can review the micro attack stages in order to understand what is the current stage of the attack. This is using micro attack for ICS tactic and techniques. To understand the full picture and the attack path, SOC can review the investigation graph in Sentinel to see which devices are impacted by this alert and which other alerts those devices are involved in. Okay, I can see here the S7 stop PLC command alert, the devices in my environment that involve, and currently I also expanded my PLC and I can see other alerts that PLC is involved in. Also, by going to the full details, I can review the list and type of devices that involved in this incident as part of the entities, including the ability to click on a device and review more details, more deep details about the devices that involved as part of that incident. Okay, so I'm clicking now about an IoT device and I'm redirecting to the IoT device entity page. Those details are streamed from Defender for OT and can help me understand the business impact of that alert, of that incident, by first of all seeing the geolocation, like the site, the actual site of that device, the zone, the production line that the device is being located in, the Purdue layer, where in which layer this device is located. Also, the OT engineer, device asset owner, so that I, as a SOC analyst, can know who should I contact in order to ask for more expert details and like look at the device at the plant itself. The importance of the device, if this is a crown jewel or non-crown jewel as defined by Defender for IoT, again, can help me to triage the incidents and also create some playbooks around it to automatically triage the incident based on the importance of that device. Also, it includes some general data about the device as analyzed by Defender for IoT deep packet inspection mechanism, and some indicators that can help me as a SOC analyst understand if the device is a valid device, if this is an authorized device in the network, if this is an authorized device to do programming in in my environment, if this is a scanner device or not. And those are strong indication to identify risk and mark that as a suspicious activity or a valid activity. Also, if SOC needs to do some more deep investigation, they can see the full device details in Defender for IoT itself by clicking on the device link and being redirected to Defender for IoT inventory page itself, and then see even more expert details, including the backplane, the slots, the racks, more attributes about the device, more alerts that the device is being involved in, and so on. Okay, and now after I finished to review the entities and the incident details, I can also leverage Defender for IoT out-of-the-box playbooks in order to maximize and automate some of the processes. For example, typically SOC would like to notify the device owner, the OT engineer owner, for each new incident involving his devices, and ask him whether the incident is an expected behavior, like a false positive incident, or if it's an expected or if it's an expected behavior means this is a true positive alert. So I'll simulate now a playbook that can help with this case. This playbook can be run for each new triggered incident in Sentinel, like with automation rule, but in that case, I will, for the sake of the demo, I will manually run it. And I'll use an out-of-the-box playbook that's called send email to the IoT owner, and then I'll look for that as part of my playbooks. So I will run right now the playbook that I have activated from the solution package. And then what I'll see that I have received an email as an OT engineer owner with the incident details emailed to me as an OT engineer device owner, and the incident details are defined by Defender for IoT with the option to respond if this is an expected behavior or a not expected behavior. Responding to that will automatically change the alert status and the severity, and by that will streamline the SOC analyst workflow. And if, for example, I have marked that as a true positive, so that will close or increase the triage for my incident. So 1 minute, I'll open that. Okay, and the last part of the demo is the out-of-the-box workbook. So by going to the workbooks blade and search for Defender for IoT workbook, I can so I can visualize to the SOC the full OT context, and SOC team can see the full picture of their OT environment. It includes the following tabs. Okay, first of all, this is an overview tab that's showing some key metrics about my OT environment, like some key metrics about my inventory, my devices as identified by Defender for IoT, by the network sensor or the DPI agent that I have mentioned before, like devices by site, how many devices they have by site, active devices by type, devices by protocol, and the recent discovered devices. Also some key metrics about my incidents and the threat detection, including division by site and by severity and trend, and some recent open incidents with the deep link, and some key metrics about my posture related to the IoT OT environment, including CVEs by site, vulnerable devices, and some top and CVEs by vendor. And with deep diving to each section, SOC team can see, for example, in the device inventory, see the full device details, that all the devices that I have in my OT environment. This is actually the same OT inventory available in Defender for OT, just again available in Sentinel for the SOC team for their own use for their context. That's including amount of open alerts, count of open alerts per device, a deep link to the device page in Defender for IoT, the CVEs that I have open for each device, including the details of the CVEs being available to me as part of the playbooks. When I'm clicking on each device, I can see the data per each device, the recommendations, security recommendations, if I have about the device, how can I strengthen and make the security of the device stronger. Other than that, SOC can also leverage the incident and alerts, which showing some key metrics about my threat detection, the top high severity alerts with some more key metrics, my MITRE tech for ICS metrics. We can the SOC can explore how the organization is covered based on MITRE attacks and which areas they should focus on. That's of course the MITRE attack for ICS. And lastly, the vulnerability dashboard that allows SOC to examine the most vulnerable devices, the CVEs data, and by that also to improve my security posture for my organization, and also identify devices that might be exploited using the CVE in a real threat. So that was a short demo on triaging Defender for IoT incidents and leveraging Defender for IoT out of the box solution package within Sentinel. And that's all for my part, and back to you, Yariv. Oh, on mute, Yariv.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Amit. Thank you, Alp, and thank you everyone for having us today. I hope you managed to see the power of Defender for IoT combined with Sentinel and Defender threat intelligence, the value of the integration it brings to SOC teams, and the effort against attacks on OT and IT. Before we move to some Q&A, if you wish to hear more, join our public communities, or engage, please do so at the link. Here also a QR code, and we'll also paste it at the Q&A.
Great. Thanks so much. The team's been great with answering questions. We do have some that are worth bringing up. The first one is, can the integration be used for both the central manager as well as the sensors?
Yeah, we do have Sentinel integration for local central manager and the cloud. Most of our solution package contents is available for the cloud version. For central manager, some of that will work, some of that will require more customization. So the answer is yes, it's available for both, but most of that is customized and tailored for the cloud solution.
Great, thank you. The next question we have is, can Defender for IoT detect the firmware version of the Modbus controllers?
Yes, we can detect the firmware version for Modbus and other protocols, and we have a documentation that listing the entire protocols that we have in part of our product, but we are constantly also adding more protocols and having also an open source framework Horizon that can allow to easily add each protocol as part of each protocol and detection for each property as part of our SDK easily.
Great, thank you. The next question we have is there a way to confirm this is an OT device without using the host name?
So the Defender for IoT identifying automatically whether a device is an IoT device, an IP device, or an host device, and that's also being streamed to Sentinel with the right entity type. So yes, it's a property for each device. Identify whether a device is an IT device, OT device, or other type of device.
Great, thank you. The next question is, are there automation playbooks or analytic rules that monitor changes between L3 OT networks and L4 business networks?
We don't have currently such playbook. We're happy to hear about as part of the community about the needs for such playbooks and how that can help. And as mentioned at the beginning, we are looking forward to hear some feedbacks and improve our solution package with more automation rules and more playbooks. So happy to get your feedbacks as part of our community.
Great, thank you. The next question is that integration where people can click this is expected versus this is unexpected also possible when Sentinel is integrated with ServiceNow SecOps?
So the ability, like this is expected or unexpected, this is a general capability of Sentinel that can be used with any playbook, not only with Defender for IT. So that should be available with ServiceNow to be confirmed, but that's a general Sentinel capabilities that should be available with any playbook that you are building in Sentinel.
Great. The next question is, what software would need to be installed on the ICS itself to obtain this level of visibility?
Good question.
Yeah, Yariv, you can take it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Amit. You're on a roll.
No, you can take it. I think you can.
Yeah. So the whole point of Defender for IoT is not to install anything or interrupt with the industrial control system or anything in the OT environment. And the way we achieve it is by copying the traffic from the OT environment into the network sensor, where it builds the security database, the map, the inventory, the alerts, and send the already analyzed data to the upper layers, the central management and Sentinel. So we do nothing, and it's by ideology to interrupt production or to cause any disruption or downtime.
Great. Thank you. The next question we have is, what if my discovered devices in Defender for IoT exceeds my committed devices billing plan?
All right. So, yeah.
No, you can take it. Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't cover that, but organizations or customers commit on the monitored devices or discovered assets in their environment, and if that exceeds, just go to your Defender for IoT portal in Azure and increase the number of devices that the network monitors.
Great, thank you. The next question is, does the type of OT sensor interface configuration change what features are available, such as SpanPort can't actively scan the OT BIOS?
All right, so I'm not sure I got the question, but if I got it right, then it relates to active querying or probing. So by default, the OT network sensor will just passively get a copy of the network, and there is no option of sending any traffic back or for querying or probing, and that's by design. We don't want any interference with production network. There is, however, an option to do active querying or probing, but that's done from a different interface, and that's again by design. We want to maintain the separation, and again by default, the network sensor will just get a copy of the traffic. It doesn't even have an IP address on the span target interface.
Great, thank you. And then the last question we've got is the aim to replace or work alongside traditional signature-based IPS/IDS?
Okay, so that's another good question, and I would say that standard or common IPS in the market are mainly focused on other parts of the network. Would that be IT or internet or data center? And they might not have the latest and the best threat intelligence and signatures when it comes to dealing with OT and IoT related attacks. So putting them in OT environments might help maybe get to detect and to block more standard attacks of standard IT protocols or malware that is seen through the network, but anything that relates to OT and IoT might not be detected there, and this is exactly the reason why Defender for IoT exists. It exists to shed the light on those parts of the network that you can't see with standard security tools.
Great, thank you so much. So I think that's all we've got for today. Thank you, Yariv, Amit, and Alp for being our guests today and for an excellent presentation. And thank you to the rest of the team who helped answer questions. At the same time, I would like to remind the listeners that the best way to ensure you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements is to visit our landing page at aka.ms/securitycommunity. And while there, you'll find easy ways to navigate and find the resources and learning content relevant to our security products and their communities. A good start would be browsing our bite-sized product videos, ninja trainings, recordings of past webinars, GitHub communities, and more. We love to hear your feedback on how we can improve these webinars. Please take a minute submitting your webinar feedback at aka.ms/security-webinar-feedback. Thank you and see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.